Hello, in this video we're going to discuss wormhole element influences part 2. So as we discussed, you can move the ball around the wormhole and you can make two, so you have an entry point and an exit point, and you can use it for cutting and teleportation. Now another use for wormhole element is also to produce material. So how God does this is you place one hand in the center of the rod applying gravity. This produces a black ball that emits elements and compounds. So with high gravity, which is above gas, we get plutonium, uranium, gravity element and light element. So light element is an element that produces light and it does not produce heat. Plutonium is the equivalent of plutonium-234. So next level, which is the high level, is gas. So this produces air, helium, hydrogen and trilithium. So trilithium is the fuel for stars. For medium, we get sand and dirt, sediment and rock flakes. So rock flakes combined with heat equals rock. So that's why rock always has a melted appearance. And another one we get is catalyst. So you combine catalyst with trilithium, what do we get? A reaction in the vacuum. We get an explosive reaction of heat, which is capable of melting rock flakes, and that's how God made rock to use as a shield to make furnaces and stuff like that. Now between medium and low gravity strength is mana. And mana is in a sort of a form of a type of biscuit that looks exactly like the host that we have at communion at Catholic Church. That is one of the items God had to use to survive on inside that chamber. It is also what the angels had to survive on until food was created in the form of barley. So the first food was barley, which the angels used to make biscuits from by mashing it up and mixing it with water. So the early angels in the early days had to do that. They survived on exclusively barley and manna. Surviving on manna on its own, you still wind up hungry. So angels had to, and God survived on it together for 50 billion years, but prior to this, God had already survived on manna and ice on its own for 10 trillion years on his own. At low gravity strength, you get liquid in the form of water, which is emitted already in ice form. Now, a thing to remember is the size of the black ball dictates the size of the items that come out. So a big black ball winds up with big items like the size of a truck or the size of a planet, and a small black ball makes small items, for example the size of a matchbox. Now an example of a star, right? The star's fuel is trilithium. So with a star we have a black ball and its fuel dimension that is coupled to gravity element that produces a gravity field that encompasses the entire dimension, draws all the fuel, and that fuel goes through the black ball that is the wormhole and then comes out inside the star. So whenever you look at the sun, just remember that in the field dimension there is a rod of wormhole element sitting on top of a large crystal of gravity element. And that is how a star gets its fuel. So we have our doorway from one dimension to another, and then we have the gravity field to pull everything into the star through the wormhole. Now another thing to look at is the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit is living artificial intelligence, as I mentioned, and for manufacturing purposes and for servicing heavens and all the dimensions, the Holy Spirit has purified rods of wormhole element that are 4 kilometers long and 2 feet wide, and the Holy Spirit has banks of them. So for manufacturing, when you're manufacturing something large, this is ideal. So it produces wormhole exit points of anything, and there's no limit to the amount of wormholes, exit points, that you can have in a dimension with this. So for example, you can fill up an entire dimension with fuel, and it takes 4 seconds, and it could be bigger than this universe. That's the sort of power and capability that the Holy Spirit has, which is very good for manufacturing purposes and you're building something large. For something simple like a spaceship traveling from one dimension to another, it is very, very simple. So the Holy Spirit can produce more than what's been mentioned here. Every element on Earth and in the universe and in every other dimension can be created by the Holy Spirit, with one exception. One exception. The Holy Spirit can create a wormhole element, but there is another one that is a new one that the Holy Spirit cannot recreate. That is a mystery one. So for servicing heaven, not only can the Holy Spirit do this, but the Holy Spirit can also reproduce materials on a particle level that are bonded together. So you could get even food created this way. And it takes 4 seconds and it's there. It is yet another way people can receive items such as mail or food or drink in heaven. It is through a wormhole. So they open up angel vision, request the food type, and then the Holy Spirit delivers it. It's not done through prayer, it is done through a type of multimedia, like a cell phone, angel vision. You do not need to do prayers in heaven because you're in heaven. A prayer is just a form of communication from this universe to heaven to request help with something. That's what prayers are for. It gives a line of communication directly to God, Mary, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So for manufacturing, you can expect some very large items to be able to be manufactured by the Holy Spirit. You can let your imaginations run wild because the universe is quite big, but the Holy Spirit has been involved in constructing items that are bigger than this universe, that are in other dimensions. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.